This is 2016 Olympian Alex Rose. You're watching Garage Strength TV. Subscribe, share, comment, smash that fucking like button. Let's go.
Okay, so the question is specifically in collegiate track and field, especially at the Division I level, why do we see so many athletes get into college, throw, especially male shot putters, where they're 18, 19 years old and they'll throw 18, 50, 19 meters as freshmen, and then they sort of just peter out. They never really increase. They never really improve because they're just, you know, satisfied in placing at conference. They're earning conference points. They're earning their scholarship. The coach is happy. They're happy. They graduate. You know, they're all done and they move on from the sport. So why does that happen? I think that happens for a few different reasons. I think the number one reason is that I think coaches do get complacent. I think they almost sit back on their laurels. You know, you get in a big recruit, maybe a guy from Pennsylvania, he goes to a Midwestern school, he throws 18, 20, 18, 30 as a freshman and never throws any better, but he's always placing at Big Ten. So I think what ends up happening is that there's a slight bit of complacency in the coaching ranks. As long as the pressure is off with that specific athlete, they're not getting pressure from above, from their head coach. They're not getting pressure from the administration. They've got a guy who's constantly putting out points, so they don't have to develop them as much. But I think now what we're starting to see is we're starting to see a whole new crop of really, really high-end coaches at North Dakota State, at Kansas State right now, at all these other schools that are into progressing the technique, and they're into teaching technical aspects. They're into hammering a technical model into different athletes, and they're using those technical models to develop these athletes, and then in turn getting better results. They're taking a 19-meter freshman and turning him into a 20-50, 20-60 shot putter by the time they're a senior, which is where they should be. And I think, you know, using even Coach McKay at Penn State, same thing. These are guys now that are coming through, that are starting to comprehend this. So what I think we're starting to see in the collegiate ranks is that we're seeing a little bit less complacency that's still there, that still is happening, that's still sort of ingrained in the system, where it's like, oh, let's just recruit the best recruits that we can possibly get, bring them in, barely do anything with them, don't develop them, and then move on. You know, then they move on, they graduate, and then we throw as much money at the best recruit as possible, and we do it all over again. But I think now that we're starting to see a very new crop, a nice new crop of coaches coming up, they're learning that they need to give the athletes a technical model right away. They need to give them a little bit more attention from the technique. They need to give them a little more attention from the social side so that they have a little bit more support. They're away from their family. Let's give a little bit more support. Let's not be super negative. Let's not beat these kids down verbally when they're 18, 19, 20 years old. Let's try and cultivate some positive energy out of them so that they can embrace their technique. They've got to deal with the struggle, and let's develop them in the weight room at the exact same time. Let's use the lessons of mobility that we've learned over the last 10 years in the strength and conditioning industry and start to apply it to our shot putters and start to apply it to our discus throwers, and then use the research that we're reading about and that we're studying about in the psychology world as well. So I think that it used to be almost the norm with the coaches, maybe when I was in college, and even obviously even after me, up until last year, 2 years ago, you would consistently see athletes that were 65, 66, 67-foot shot putters in high school go into college. They'd throw 18, 19 meters as a freshman, and their coach would be perfectly content with them throwing between 18 and 19 meters for their entire career because they would get those points. But what ends up happening now is that coaches are getting better. Coaches are starting to hold their athletes more accountable. They're starting to give more information to those athletes. They're starting to teach them about their technical model, their approach to the sport. They're doing a better job of actually developing these shot putters. And you're starting to see guys that were at NAU and now are at K-State do a tremendous job because they're taking a much more holistic approach to that full development. And I think that's what you're going to start to see now, is that you're going to start to see a lot of these older coaches are going to get pushed to change, to embrace, you know, meditation, to embrace mobility, to embrace more investment in their throwers It's gone are the days of just throwing as much money at the best recruit, bringing them in, and barely doing anything with them. And that's what's going to make U.S. throwing so much better in the future.